Hello, everyone. Welcome to Feedstuffs 365. I'm Sarah Muirhead, and with us today on this Tuesday is Greg Soulje. He's back to give us the weather and what we can look forward to. I guess forward to. There's a lot of stuff going on out there, Greg, and some stuff
Yeah.
that folks that are calving or lambing right now should be aware of. And then we've got the fires across Nebraska that
Yep.
are just causing all kinds of devastation. So lots to talk about.
And drought again. We continue to make good inroads, not completely over with, but we continue to make substantial inroads on this multi-year drought over parts of the Corn Belt, the Eastern Plains, the Southern Great Lakes region, with some decent numbers. May come at a price with more severe stuff, and we'll talk about that here in just a second. But yeah, lots going on in pretty much a typical last day of March weather, early springtime across, especially the heartland.
Very good. Well, your slides are up, so I'm going to let you go ahead and give us the forecast.
All right, here we go. And of course, for now, there's a little bit of snow coming on down through the upper Great Lakes region. Yesterday, anywhere between 1 and as much as 5 and 6 inches of snow came down north of the border and across some of those spring grain areas of the southern Canadian prairie. And of course, there's still a number of weeks away before even thinking about field work, but nice to get some moisture up there. Of course, some of those snowpack issues come into fruition and play when we've got cold, high pressure building on in at certain times of the springtime season. And in any event, farther south, boy, this range of temperatures. For example, if you were to pick Milwaukee, Wisconsin, you go an hour north, you lose 30 degrees. You go an hour south of there, you pick up another 10 or 15. So the range is between 35 and 65 plus degrees in a maybe 2-hour drive in the southern Great Lakes region this morning. And we already have severe weather, and it got going during the overnight hours. And another one of these weird setups, kind of thinking, where you get supposedly daytime heating, but no, there's various layers of warmth aloft. The winds are up aloft or out of the southwest as well. And so it's the right setup for severe weather, but mostly this hail bearing stuff. We had that last week, some big hail out of McLean and parts of Ford and Iroquois counties. We've done it in central Wisconsin again, and they're just barely past 35 degrees. It's not sleet, it's hail coming down, and already a slew of hail reports out of southeast Iowa, central Illinois, and along I-80, kind of either side of that in the Kankakee River. In the southern Great Lakes region. Those will be translating east with time this afternoon and evening through northern Illinois, northern Indiana, I should say, into northwest Ohio. And not to mention some pretty substantial rainfall that we'll take a look at here, not only in the next 48 hours, but over the next 5 to 7 days as well. So there's a cool off underway over the northern half of the Plain States areas. Temperatures were down at midwinter levels. They have been all over creation on temperatures through Montana, parts of the Dakotas. I'm sure livestock managers have been taking that into account. Extra feed requirements, footing issues going to turn precarious around that particular area. And at least there's some moisture coming. You may not like it, but there's some moisture that hopefully squelches some of the fires, or at least fire potential, into some of the central high plains areas of Wyoming, Nebraska, and Colorado for the next couple of days. And again, the winter wheat crop has taken a bit of a hit coming off the heat into the central and southern plains. 60% good to excellent back at the end of February, thereabouts, and now probably a little under 40% now in the good to excellent category as it applies to the state of Kansas. So issues continue to build there. Meanwhile, the weather pattern continues to be one that features some scattered shower activity over the deep south. Warm, dry weather continuing to allow for a rapid pace at field work, pasture growth, development, etc., so forth and so on. But despite recent rains, there has been a lot. Dryness and drought, the story down through the heart of Cotton Belt country in the Delta region. We'll keep an eye on that going forward. Remember, winding down La Nina's, moving into a neutral state atmosphere, not super conducive once we get past about mid-April to getting substantial rains in the south and southeastern part of the country, unless you're going to bring a tropical system on northward. None of that going on anytime soon. Some rain has been the story through the Pacific Northwestern reaches of Washington state. Some of that is beginning in scattered, spotty fashion to move into parts of California. At least the heat has eased, but any of this precip going forward anytime soon, with basically the moisture season ending in California, southwestern states, and what has been a very dismal, anemic snow season. Heightened concern, I think, with runoff issues already because of recent heat, and fires, which I think will become something that plays out early and often in that particular part of the country. Visible satellite picture, you can see a fair amount of cloudiness from the divide on westward, the pockets of cloudiness through the Midwest. That represents thunderstorm activity and little disturbances, those X's, if you want to think of them as just pockets of energy. The air rises a little quicker, and you get into that sometimes under the right converging wind fields with a front nearby, for example, and that's how you make showers and thunderstorms in this time of the year. It's severe weather potential. There is a circulation kind of strung out, elongated. If you saw how, we'll go back to it here, you can see how those winds up aloft are out of the south and southwest or west-southwest, and then the weather systems are kind of caught up in that same flow. They don't make a lot of rush to the south and east anytime soon. So you get those disturbances, those X vorticities, as we call them, to move along them. And so you get these slow moving outbreaks of showers and thunderstorms. Atmosphere can grow vertically at a nice pace, and that's how you get this stuff going. And there's a lot of up and down momentum in the atmosphere, and hence that's the way you make hail. So things are great from a rainfall standpoint, not great if you got to get the truck to pick up whatever, and it's out there. Getting into some type of shelter here going forward over the next 12 to 18 hours. There's a little more zoomed in look. There's a series of lows coming out of the central plains of the Great Lakes region. North of that elongated area, that's the colder air moving on in. South of it, that's the warm air on a south-southwesterly wind. You can see how some of the storm tops are what we call overshooting or shadowing, and that usually means that they are growing to some pretty substantial height. I think some of the stuff we saw out of southeastern Iowa was in that about 48 to 52,000 foot high range already at mid-morning in the Midwest. So there's a lot of energy moving through that part of the country. And there's a little better representation of that front moving through Michigan, Iowa, down into the southern plains. It's cooler air. It will ultimately get cold enough to get some snow going, with a couple of more systems coming out of that broad southwest and northeast upper wind pattern for the plains, and most of the radar detectable rain on at least the overnight hours, where we get this moisture sources again through the upper lakes region, the northeast to New England. But we'll begin to see these scattered showers and thunderstorms over the Midwest and eastern plains kind of teleconnect into a band or two to come southward with time this afternoon and evening time. So there's the depiction as of this afternoon. The front really hasn't gone anywhere. The better coverages on the showers and thunderstorms are still held up into Wisconsin, far northern Illinois, Michigan, and so areas through the northern end of the state that are technically out of the drought already will get more moisture. And you can see the high over the southern Canadian prairie. That's a clockwise flow. When that flow comes up through the high elevations or higher elevations of Montana, Wyoming, Colorado, the air rises even more. We call it upslope, and you're able to generate moisture in one form or another. There's the late afternoon, early evening maps. That red area denotes some of the severe weather breaking out in southeast Iowa, northern Illinois, northwest Indiana right now. We'll continue to hightail it on the Illinois, Indiana, at least the Indiana toll road system into Ohio. Some severe weather possible lower lakes region. The snows pick up from the Black Hills and the Big Sky Country, and a couple of scattered showers across the Gulf Coast area. Note the late season. This is probably the last of it for a while. Moisture across California and the West, which blossoms nicely. Redding, Red Bluff, up into the Willamette Valley of the Pacific Northwest, Rogue River Basin. And note the snows, unfortunately, expanding across the Western Dakotas, beginning to build in the Nebraska Panhandle. Like I said, you're going to get some drought relief, some improvement on the fire situation. You're not going to like what comes on down. And surprise, there's no winter weather advisories other than parts of Nebraska right now. Would think that those may get upgraded or at least expanded with time from the National Weather Service for the plains and upper Midwest, maybe even a winter storm warning or two going on there. And the rains, wide and expansive. The severe nature winds down. The wind is still up aloft, even behind the front. So that's called an overrunning moisture pattern. And that usually means kind of just persistent, steady rains. It'll be in and out, on and off much of the day tomorrow through Missouri, Illinois, Indiana, lower lakes region. Areas that have been missed out on recent rains will get it. Others that have seen a lot of rain will get a lot more rain. We'll take a look at that in just a second. So that front then stalls out. Again, remember, there's no big southward push on it. There's another feature too, and you can see moving to the Pacific Northwest. This is the look tomorrow afternoon and towards evening time. Look at the pink and purple and blue. That's snow, freezing rain, sleet through the Dakotas, Nebraska, Corn Palace up to the Twins, and heading north into Wisconsin as the showers and thunderstorms get going over the plains. Good news with moisture, not so good because that's going to be a severe weather outbreak over Kansas, Oklahoma, and Texas tomorrow afternoon and evening time. And we're not done with the severe weather end of it over the central and southern Corn Belt with time. There's the more significant low, slow moving again, widespread, drenching, solid near 100 complete coverage showers and thunderstorms will move from the plains into the Corn Belt locales. Those commodity guys, when I used to type that stuff back in the Central Weather Service days ago, they always like amounts, coverages, numbers, percentages, qualifiers, adjectives, all that kind of stuff. So that's just the way we do it here these days. So you're going to get rain and some pretty significant rains if you want to put the rain gauge out, and some pretty substantial snow. Nebraska Panhandle, well, let's just say the Black Hills, Corn Palace, and north, and then into the Northwoods of Wisconsin. Half a foot, maybe wet packing variety, so it will be of a higher moisture content. Slight risk right now for parts of the Oklahoma Panhandle, Illinois, Indiana, lower lakes region. I wouldn't be surprised that some of that corridor, and again, sometimes the weather service just gets this stuff out as it's happening, may get upgraded, I would think, to maybe a moderate risk out of those same areas, either side of 80 and 90 on the toll road this afternoon and evening time, but extends as far south as the I-70 corridor. So heads up, keep an eye on weather watches and warnings. For now, it's kind of the level 2 out of 5. No watches other than northern Illinois, northern Indiana, northwest Ohio. Those will be expanding, but as those indices get higher, the likelihood of severe weather in one category or another gets higher as well. Like last week, we had all the hail reports coming out of parts of the central Corn Belt. The fire potential gets shifted southward in the next 24 to 36 hours into the southern high plains areas. The next 24 hours, it's more like it. And if you're already wet, there may be some standing water out there, but some pretty good 1 to 2 inch totals for openers. Iowa, Missouri, half, probably 3/4 to buck and a quarter. Illinois, southern, northern and central Illinois, southern Great Lakes region. And the water equivalent of that snow is going to be half to maybe an inch. And so that's heavy, wet, moisture content snow from the Corn Palace to Lambeau and points on northward from there. There's what's left of the snowpack and snow cover. And again, we added it to it around Lake Winnipeg, Saskatoon, up north of Thunder Bay and Sault Ste. Marie yesterday. And look at the expanse over the areas north of the St. Lawrence River Valley, where there's still rain coming on down currently, but still a pretty substantial snowpack there. Next 5 days on the upper air charts, that is an impressive low, which will once again light up severe weather on the plains, more widespread rains for the Corn Belt and the rest of the Plain States areas, and another probably rain shifting of snow under that low through the northern plains, upper Midwest, southern Canadian Prairie, and then kind of things what we call flatten out. There's no big Arctic intrusion coming in. It's just a return to maybe more seasonal to slightly above on temperatures, maybe a frost patch or two, but not unusual for early April into parts of the Midwest and Central Plains. And we do see another temperature recovery and probably another round of wet weather late next week before we get a small window of opportunity for folks who are on the earlier side of the planting ledger, at least as it applies to the Corn Belt. Not that it's going to be a dry and easy to take April and May around here, but you'll get a small window to do whatever you have to after late next week across parts of the Corn Belt. And there's the low coming out of Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, the plains of the upper Midwest. Again, more snow up north, more showers, thunderstorms, plains, Corn Belt locales. And we may get some moisture going, a little more significance across to the Delta and the Cotton Belt country as well. So cooler to follow. And then on the backside of the high between Tuesday and Wednesday next week, we get into another round of moisture breaking out across the Dakotas. That should be primarily rain. But for folks through the Midwest planning maybe an Easter Sunday, Monday, the weather should be cooler and drier. Most of the organized rain should be up time we get to Saturday night over the Midwest. So cooler on the move across the West, and the first time in about 4 to 6 weeks, breaking the back of that heat wave weather pattern, which has really done a number on snowpack and snow cover off the Sierra and parts of the Cascades and Southern Rockies. Again, I think there's nothing going on now, and probably no headlines until it happens, but there may be fire issues going out in the western states. 2 to 4 inches of moisture. Yeah, generally everyone 1 to 2, a fair amount, fair coverage, as we say, 50 to 60%, 2 to 3 inch totals out of the Eastern Plains and Corn Belt locales, those dry areas, and maybe 25, 30% will get 3 to as much as 4 inches of rain spread over the next 5 to 6 days. And we talked about the severe weather across parts of the Plains and Corn Belt locales currently, and snow, sleet, freezing rain. Not done with winter over the Dakotas, Nebraska, upper Midwest into the western Great Lakes region. That's a nice drought easing setup. Again, won't completely eradicate it, but we've made some significant inroads over the middle part of the country regarding dryness and drought. The next 7 days, we continue to see the corridor of rain shifting into the eastern core belt. Nice to see moisture into the Pacific Northwest. There is the drought monitor. Note the improvement. The Dakotas, Minnesota, especially Wisconsin, central Iowa. It's teleconnecting or coming together across Kansas, so that's a little worrisome. Nebraska really hard hit. So I know it's snow, but it's going to be anywhere between a half to an inch worth of rain equivalent. And the southeastern part of the country, a little closer snapshot. Those red areas have remarkably shrunken, and there's improvement through northeast Illinois, much of Michigan, hardly any drought through Wisconsin as well. And then basically from Champaign to Toledo, either side of that line, we've even seen improvement and a significant improvement over the far southern and southeastern Corn Belt locales. There's a look at temperatures still as late as, this afternoon, still 70s, some record-setting low and middle 80s into the Ohio Valley. No real big cool-off heading on through the end part of the week, still across the Corn Belt, above average 60s and 70s, the cool air lurking through the northern plains, and it's back to reality or a little above over areas east of the Missouri early next week as the warm temporarily moves back across the west. No sign that we're going to move into this hot weather pattern and this kind of setup in the next 6 to 10 days. Basically a zonal flow, a little tilt in out of the western Pacific or eastern Pacific and western Canada. So cooler, but no worse than seasonal temperatures than there it is. We're not going to fiddle with this too much and tend to agree with it going forward into the first week to 10 days of the month of April. And there will be a window probably closer to about the 9th or 10th where we get into some opportunity for maybe a little early season field work over parts of the Midwest. And again, back into the weather scenario, wetter scenario for the rest of April as well as May. We'll update what's left on the springtime calendar from a long-range weather forecasting standpoint, talk about probably moving into here the next several maybe month or so into a neutral state atmosphere. El Nino's coming. Benign, quiet El Ninos are usually conducive to timely rain. Stronger ones, which we're kind of thinking of, sometimes tilt some of the heat and the dry spells that return to the plains already because of a weekend El Nino. Sometimes that moves eastward across the rest of the Corn Belt. We're chasing rains when we need them later in summertime, later July and August. So that's it from the weather office here, there, sir, on this last day of April. And I think that puts us already.
It's the last day of March, not April.
See, we'll see if you're listening out there.
I am listening.
Anyway, I got the calendar dates right, but as I was going to say, the end of the first quarter of the year of 2026,
and quite some colorful maps. Oh
yeah,
my goodness.
Like that.
Got, let's repeat what you said there. Keep your eye out for those weather watches and warnings, because we're certainly going to see some of those here in the near term anyway. And
they're underway from a severe storm standpoint. Into places like northern Illinois, Indiana, Ohio. We've got, again, there's just a small area that's under a winter weather advisory for parts of Montana and Nebraska. Would think that those are going to get upgraded to a watch or even a warning. I think from the transition from what we've had lately to this wet packing, wind-driven snow, even if it's not a whole bunch, that's still a problem with livestock operations in mind. So be ready for that. But the flip side, if you want to look at it like the rain gauge is half full, then you're going to get some moisture out there where we need it.
Very good. And we'll check back in with Greg here on Friday morning to get another update. And of course, you can catch him across the airwaves there on a number of radio stations and every weekend on This Weekend in Agribusiness. This Week in Agribusiness. See, you didn't catch me on that one.
I didn't say anything. And you're going to correct it. So yes, This Week in Agribusiness radio and this fine get together we do on Tuesdays and Fridays.
Very good. All right, Greg, thank you so much. And we appreciate all of you tuning in as well.